First thing I did was to expand my frame. I originally took a ton of pictures planning to do a really big panorama, but in the end decided to just go with a square crop and only ended up adding on one image. And then I liked her hand better lower from another shot, so I'm just cutting that out real quick and I'll plop it onto my main image. And then taking out the hand from the original shot, which I picked that one because I really liked the way her hair was flowing and her face looked really nice. So I did end up adding a little more hair, which I think I will move in a bit, but I liked the overall look of it. And then here I'm cutting out an area to add in another piece of flowing fabric, using layer masks to get rid of the elbow from the shot of this other piece of fabric. And just kind of warping it around until I like it. Next I whited out the sky and added in another one from a different picture. Just blending that in a bit. And then decided to move the hair. It looked a little too big and too fake. So I threw a layer mask on it and I'm just kind of going back and forth trying to find what looks the most natural, what combination between the hair from the actual picture and the added hair until it looked good. And started darkening down the top and the bottom using a gradient on an overlay layer and brightened up the middle part with the flowers some. And started doing the digital painting portion, which I'll do several times throughout. Just highlighting details in the eyes and brightening the whites of the eyes, adding highlights here and there. And this definitely starts to give it more of that painterly look because it is painted on there. Made the eyes blue for a bit here, but I darken them back down, make them a bit more natural later, as suggested by my cousin James. And shading the hair. Yep, just going around detailing things. And then I did a shadow highlight of everything. Turned that down some, started messing with the color. I thought the blues of her dress in the sky could be a little more purple. Fun thing about color is you can take it way too far and see how you like it and then bring it back towards center until you get it where you like it. And then I decided it was about time to pen tool her out so I could make her pop a bit more. You know, maybe blur the background a little bit behind her and brighten it up some just so she stands off the background even a little more. I did really like at this location how there were these yellow flowers and she had this blue dress, so she already is definitely popping off of there, but I always like to select my subjects so that I can edit them independently from the background, even if they are staying in the actual shot. And more painting overall. I didn't do anything terribly crazy fancy as far as Photoshop for this one. You know, all pretty simple techniques, just painting and shading and some curves and stuff like that, but here I was blurring the top and bottom of my frame a bit. And then I noticed that she had this strong highlight on one arm and it wasn't on the other one, and I just thought it would look better if it was there, so I stole it from one arm and plopped it on the other one, blended that in a little bit. And then I did a shadow highlight just to her, turned that down some. This is the perk of having your subject selected out, is you can blur things independently of them. So I had blurred the background some and then brought that back on her focal plane so it would make a bit more sense. I took all of this effect a little farther than I wanted it to, and then I turned it down so it just kind of added a soft glow to everything without really losing a lot of detail. And just messing around with different looks. Thought I might like to brighten it a lot behind her, which I end up toning down. You'll find I do that a lot, where I try something, take it a little far, and go, that's too much, and then just bringing it back. So the work wasn't wasted, but it's not quite as drastic. And I was just taking out some of the more distracting weeds, blurring the foreground a little bit more. Sometimes I like to go through all my layers and just see what everything's doing, starting at the bottom. And whenever I do that, I find I usually notice one or two things that I fix that when all the layers are on, I didn't notice. But when you turn them on one at a time, you go, oh, I don't like this. And then here, this is just a regular layer with a white brush. And I'm just clicking around where there are highlights on the plants and kind of giving them this glowy effect, which is obviously a super easy, simple trick. I'm just using white paint and a regular layer, but it gives it a more magical, dreamy, interesting effect, and it's relatively easy and kind of fun to just zone out and click little dots all over the place. So I'm just taking another pass through, making even smaller ones, and then I ended up blurring this a little bit because I realized the detail was a little sharper than the background image was, so I just blurred those dots once I was done placing them everywhere. Just a regular Gaussian blur filter. And as I usually do, I decided to add some particles. Did one layer set to soft light and turned that way down, and another copy of it set to screen. Layered those up. Started adding some starbursts, giving her dress some sparkly bits. And then there I had selected all the red and turned it green around her, so there were all the like dead branches and things turned green. And from there on it was just, some little tweaks and it was done. And that's how I made this image. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.